I am intrigued and puzzled as I stroke my non-existent facial hair.
I think you're the only one of all of us that doesn't have facial hair.
No, that is a fact. That is not an opinion. I'm the only Biconic boy that does not have any remnant of facial hair. It missed me in the face department and it got me everywhere else. But that is another story for another podcast. But hello, all you Biconics wrestling nerds out there, and welcome to another rendition of the DDT Review, your weekly WWE NXT review team. I'm your host, Mikey. Joining me once again this week is my lovely co-host, Andrew. I'm super happy to have you come back for a second week in a row, which has been really weird because we've been on and off between all three of us. But as always, we are missing Will.
Both missing him and missing him.
Yes. I swear we're going to get all three of us back on soon. And I miss our three-person dynamic. So here's hope. Here's hoping TNA will have all three of us. And if not, we better get everyone for sacrifice. Otherwise, I'm going to cry myself to sleep again. Speaking of crying myself to sleep, so I've had 24 hours to process what we just watched for Roadblock. And I have to say, I didn't hate it, but I got left with more questions and concerns than I thought I was going to. I am excited because I think we have our main men's and main women's matches set for Stand and Deliver. I am worried about everything else, though, that we have left to figure out what we're going to do for Stand and Deliver. But before we begin, a little bit of housekeeping. You could subscribe, check us out here on the YouTube channel. If you like this review, we got lots more and future stuff incoming, which is a great time. You can all follow us all over the social medias at BC WrestlePod. If you can't commit to watching our beautiful faces, we have audio versions of all our reviews now, so that is a beautiful time. It is fun to have. And then, of course, if you want to check out our shenanigans live and in person, some of the Biconics boys are going to be at the New Jersey WrestleCon Saturday, May 18th and Sunday, May 19th. We're going to have a table there. Come say hi. Check us out. Have a conversation with us. And, some of us may or may not try to get Billy Starks and Queen Aminata to sign our stuff. But, yeah, that's the other thing that dropped. It just got announced that Queen Aminata is going to be at this thing, and I'm going to be pushing the Biconics boys out of the way. I'm like, move! I'm Team Juicy. Let's go.
Heck yeah. That's awesome.
It's going to be fun. I'm super excited. Make sure to go check out the website because they have a very interesting bunch of wrestlers that are going to be there. Both of the ROH brand and some former WWE folks there too. But we are not here to hype that up. That will be for a later episode. We are here to review NXT from this week. This is the Roadblock TV special. So ever so often, NXT decides, let's do a special TV thing. The last TV special we got was New Year's Evil, and me and Will reviewed that one, and we were left with more questions than answers, just like I was left with more questions than answers here. I understand that we're in the midst of building towards the biggest NXT pay-per-view of the year, but we got to figure out what we're doing because there are some highlights, there are some lowlights, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So let's just rip the Band-Aid off. NXT this week decided to start off with our Asylum match. So Dijak versus Joe Gacy just out the bat. And I was thoroughly entertained. I did not... When I first heard Asylum match, I got concerned because then I got war flashbacks to Jericho versus Dean Ambrose in the Asylum match at a pay-per-view. And that not being very good, I was like, oh no, what are we doing? But I was entertained. The best bit of this whole entire match, outside of moonsault from the top of the cage from Dijak, was the fact of we had a boxing glove punch to the nuts, which was hilarious. I miss those Pee Wee Herman-esque spots. But this match was more entertaining than it had any right to be. And I'm kind of mad at myself that I enjoyed this a lot.
No, I thought it was fun. That moonsault off the top of the cage was insane by Dijak. I thought this was a crazy match to open the show. especially, considering it was like a special episode, and not like a big pay-per-view or PLE. But yeah, this was probably the most entertaining Dijak match that I've watched in a while. And these two went for it, considering how like restrained they have to be in that setting. But it was a good way to get the energy going for the rest of the night.
Absolutely. Like I said, some of my favorite spots include the boxing glove to the nuts, the moonsault from the top of the cage. There's just something about watching another human being wrap duct tape around another person's face that is also very, very interesting. I was just like, oh, okay, duct tape, here we go. There was the table. There's some straight jackets. There was a fire extinguisher. All it was missing was thumbtacks.
The headbutt that put Dijak through the table, followed by that senton, was pretty crazy because Gacy was still wearing the straight jacket at the time. So yeah, it was fun. But yeah, I would like to seeing this made me want to see the two of them in like a true hardcore insane match. Put some thumbtacks in there. Maybe don't go through a plate of glass from a 20-foot ladder in the ring. But, maybe somewhere in the middle between those levels. But this was a good one. I liked it.
We have to be building to something, one more match at Stand and Deliver between these two. We have to. And I'm really hoping, if anything, we get an Extreme Rules match.
Yeah. Pinfalls anywhere, like something like that. Yeah, just let them go crazy.
We got to get one more in this trilogy and have the rubber match. And who knows if Joe Gacy will actually... I feel like Joe Gacy is winning even when he's losing because he's still crazy. So, that was a fun way to open up. I was very surprised this opened it up. I thought we would start with one of the other matches first, but we did not. We then head backstage. We see Tony D'Angelo and the rest of the family. This sets up that we have a new member being part of this little faction in Luca Crucifino, who is the NXT lawyer trope, which I never thought is a sentence I would say in my entire life, but here we are. And everyone is hyping up Tony for his match, which we come to find out is going to main event tonight, which makes a lot of sense because it's the #1 contender for the NXT Championship. Then we get backstage with Riley Osborne and Fallon Henley. They are still talking about the Valentine's date gone awry between Riley and Thea. Fallon's like, hey, I appreciate talking to Thea. This love thing is going on. And the funny thing about this whole thing was next walks in Blair Davenport, who is actually engaged to Riley Osborne in real life. So this is actual fiance right there doing this whole bit, which was funny. Fallon and Blair has some words to exchange with one another, which ultimately the WWE is like, oh, we have words. We're going to fight later tonight. So we get a match later that's going to happen, and we'll talk about it when we get there. This was so out of left field. I was just like, all right, NXT. I was like, I'm not going to complain about women's matches. So, I'm here for it. I like Fallon. I like Blair. So this should be interesting. Spoiler alert. Maybe? We'll talk about that when we get there. So this was like the first 20 minutes of the show, and then we were like, all right, next match. Bam. So we get our NXT Tag Team Championship match, the Wolf Dogs. That's not their official tag team name, but we're going to call them the Wolf Dogs. So the Wolf Dogs. It should be. The Wolf Dogs, which is Baron Corbin and Braun Breaker, take on the #1 contenders of Chase U, being represented by Andre Chase and Duke Hudson. Braun is just so good. Like, that's all I got in my notes for this. I was like, I knew Chase U wasn't going to win. And I was like, Braun and Baron are the best tag team ever. Don't break them up anytime soon. And I'm like, oh my God, I think Baron just folded him in half.
Yeah, the way that he moves, it's like he's got the qualities of his father and his uncle, but more. Like, he's like the energy and the strength and speed of the young Steiner brothers combined. I think putting him with Baron has been a really great pairing. This match was much better than I expected it to be. And I think Chase U delivered really well, especially in selling what the Wolf Dogs did to them. And they're such a good tag team. Like, I feel like they could legitimately like dominate for a long time. And if they want to get them out of NXT to put Braun somewhere else, like take them somewhere else and put other tag titles on them, or just let them take the NXT titles and go to multiple shows. But yeah, they're so good and so entertaining, and they look like they're having fun together.
I have said this on multiple occasions, and I'm echoing Will in this too, because it's no secret that Will is the number one hater for Baron Corbin individually. And we were kind of getting tired of Braun Breaker doing Braun Breaker things by himself. But putting them two together has been the best thing for both of them, and now I kind of don't want them to go anywhere anytime soon. I want them to have a good title reign. But I enjoyed this match. This is great. After the match, Thea kind of loses her mind and she leaves Chase U in the ring as they're kind of like consoling their defeat. JC, again, we talked about this last week. JC's heel turn has been so whiplashy in terms of where we were like 2 weeks ago to where we are now. Is nuts to me. She does like schoolgirl L's onto the forehead as my camera decides to zoom in on my face. So that's always a good thing. But anyway,
it was a zoom for dramatic effect.
Yes, dramatic effect, which is exactly how I felt about this whole thing that's going on with Chase U. I'm like, normally I'm here for the campiness of it, and I've enjoyed Chase U as this whole thing, especially when we got into the whole entire, we got to say Chase U because it's on the verge of bankrupt storyline. Is it stupid? Yes. Did I enjoy it? Absolutely. But now I'm just like, okay, now that we're past this part, we're kind of floundering here a little bit. And I don't know what we're doing anymore. Again, this heel turn from JC is crazy to me. I don't know what's happening anymore. And it's one of those times where I wish Will was here because we've both been big fans of this storyline. But now I feel like we got nowhere else to go now that we saved the school. So what's next? Oh, okay. Let's just make JC a bad guy now. Sure. Okay. Moving on. We tried to get an interview with Carmelo Hayes backstage. He rolled up with the Goon Squad this episode. And I'm just like, sir. It is not my place to judge because listen, me and Andrew are POCs ourselves in certain capacities. I had a weird way of feeling watching the Goon Squads. I was like, okay, I totally understand why you hired them, Carmelo. But there's just an inner part of me as a brown person in America. I was just like, is this how we want to represent our security teams around here? I was like, we be looking like Lil Yachty's about to come in and do something. I don't know. It's of the time. This is like very modern, but I was just like, I don't think this is good. For me personally, I don't like this representation. But again, I can't really talk to it because I am Mexican and Puerto Rican, and I am not any way, shape, or form African American. So I do not want to speak on these types of issues. But I was like, if Trick Williams is not underneath here, okay.
I honestly laughed when I first, when the camera came up on them because it looked cheesier than it did impressive or intimidating. It looked more intimidating last week when he had the bunch of security there, which I'm pretty sure at least a couple of them were the same people, just dressed in differently and had masks on.
And ski masks.
Yeah. So part of it I think was the white shirts underneath that were just I was just like, this doesn't look scary. It doesn't look intimidating. It looks kind of silly, and it is very stereotypical of what they were going for, and so I think that made it seem cheesier too. The biggest thing I got out of this was that I liked Melo's Black Panther inspired necklace that he had on. That was super cool.
Dope. That was dope.
But when that's the best thing that comes out of your promo, it probably wasn't that good of a promo.
No, and Mello kind of says the same thing that we've been getting the last couple of weeks, but like you said, this to a less of a certain extent. It wasn't as powerful as like the pre-tape segment we got 2 weeks ago, or the promo he did in the ring after he turned on Trick a couple weeks ago too. And I mean, he's going to end up winning and calling Ilya out, being a bad champion, whatnot. I was like, all right, we got this a couple weeks in a row. We're gonna move on from this. And then we get our honorary squash match of the evening. So the chairman, Shawn Spears, takes on Uriah Connors, who happens to be Finn Finley's son. So very, very happy to see him on television. This was what it was. We just set up to get Shawn Spears a win. So Will's gonna get mad at me when I say this, but me and him had a conversation because he wanted some more information about, Shawn Spears and this whole character he's going for. And literally, I was like, the best way I could describe it without getting too weird, which is weird because we watch wrestling, which is a weird thing in itself. I was like, Shawn Spears' character is, you might start having an infatuation with steel chairs the more you are around this character. Is the best way I could put it to you. Because that man is like a suave lover to steel chairs, which is really weird to say those words in that order in a complete sentence. And Will's like, okay, I'm 100% in. I'm like, good. Trust me, he's a great in-ring performer. He gets on the mic, cuts his promo. He talks about how last week Ridge gave into his anger. And that's what Shawn Spears wants to see. You must work through the darkness in order to embrace it and whatnot. Which then props what I've wanted to see Ridge for the last couple weeks. He just goes full Hulk. Like he goes full like Hulk smash and grabs the chair and starts hitting people. And he comes close to hitting Shawn Spears. Shawn Spears is begging for it. He wants to get hit with the chair. But Ridge ultimately decides not to, throws it to the ground. And Shawn Spears looks so disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a very long match, but having seen so much of Shawn Spears, both in his previous NXT run as Ty Dillinger, and then in AEW, like, watching this, I was like, WWE doesn't deserve Shawn Spears. Like, keep him in NXT. Like, I don't want to see him move to the other shows. Like, he needs to stay there. And I feel like he's doing better in the short amount of time he's been there. He's been back at like what they're trying to do with people like Dijak and that kind of stuff. And it's just, he's just so good at it and so good at the in-ring performance. Like that corner tie-up thing with the knees was just such a unique take on like corner attacks. And I feel like with this, and it got kind of reaffirmed for me later on, but I feel like Spears is maybe building a like flock Wyatt family-esque kind of group where he's just like getting these people to embrace their like dark sides, and like follow him and follow like his ways, kind of a cultish kind of thing, which I'd be totally down for. So I'm excited to see what they do with this. This did what a squash match was supposed to do, and it was fun getting to see Fit Finley's son in there, who I'm hoping we're going to see more of in non-squash matches.
I hope so too, because I'm like, that's a big legacy right there. It's really crazy to see all of the kids of these wrestlers that we know and grew up with to a certain extent kind of make it their way. I'm like, oh my gosh, we are old. I was just like, their babies are now wrestling on television. What is happening in the world? I would love to see Rich Holland and Shawn Spears become a little faction and start recruiting more members. I think this is exactly what Ridge needs, especially since we took him away from the Brawling Brutes. So now that Pete Dunne is with Tyler Bate and Sheamus should be coming back from injury sometime soon, I would not be surprised if he makes a surprise entrance in the Gauntlet on Monday Night Raw for the IC Championship. But that's for the Monday Night Raw review. So backstage, we get confirmation. Brooks Jensen, Josh Briggs. Josh comes up and is like, bro, I heard you're going to take on Obafemi for the North American Championship next week. red flag number one for me. I'm like, oh no. And then this promo continues because the whole entire story we've been telling with these two so far is a couple weeks ago. Josh told Brooks he needs to grow a pair, man up, and start doing things for himself. They had a baller match, which was a lot of fun to watch. Very hard hitting, very violent, which was very interesting to watch. And Brooks is like, bro, I got to do this. You told me to man up. I'm doing exactly what you said. And Josh's like, yeah, but not in this capacity. I got this. Walks off. And red flag number two, I'm like, my poor baby's about to get murdered next week on television. I'm like, Oba Femi is about to destroy this man.
Yeah, spoiler alert, he don't got this.
Yeah, I was like, spoiler alert, he ain't got this. You guys, I was like, someone send some help. And as you know, and so I was like, oh, okay, so that was interesting. I wonder if Josh is going to be out there to help him. And then we keep lingering a little bit longer. I'm like, wait, what's about to happen next? And then in walks Dijak and is just like, you call him your brother, and basically you lied to his face. Shame on you and shame on him. And he walks away. I'm like, the plot. Sure. Okay. I know these two had a connection because these two went at it leading up into Deadline, into the Iron Survivor Challenge, and they both were majority of the time hitting each other during that whole match. I find it interesting that Dijak is the one to kind of bring this to Josh. I'm like, I could see someone like Keing, like the over-the-top heel to do this. I was like, what is happening, Dijak? What are we doing? Are we setting you and Josh up for something? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, like, does that mean that the thing with him and Gacy is done? So that's kind of finished that? Like, it's weird. And you bring up Lexis King, and I was like, why was he not in the show at all when he was like the beginning and main parts of like the intro for this card? Like, that would have been a great place to put him in and have some questions, especially because Lexis King has history with Oba Femi. So, you know, that could have planted some roots and set up a match for maybe Lexis King versus Oba for the title at Stand and Deliver or something. But
get a rematch for him.
Yeah, considering that Brooks Jensen just announced on a backstage segment that he's fighting next week at a weekly, show against Oba for that title. Yeah, it's probably not going to be super good for him.
I was like, I also don't like that this is the character story that we decided to go with Brooks at this point. He's like, I'm going to give it my all and I'm going to challenge anybody and everyone. I'm like, baby, you're about to get murdered on television again because you're picking the wrong people to fight. Yeah. I was just like, you're literally about to get demolished. And am I going to be entertained? Probably. But this is not the character trope that I want for him because it never ends well because you end up getting stuck where you just... I'm afraid he's about to get Heath Slatered, and I'm so worried. Literally. Yes. Except when Heath Slater included the kids part, I was like, okay, now I'm very interested. I can't believe I said this. I was so happy when him and Rhino won the SmackDown Tag Team Championships in WWE when they were both still there. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And I think that's probably why I'm worried for Brooks Jensen, because it seems like we're walking along the similar lines of the Heath Slater I have kids character, and it never works out very well, just like we saw with Heath when he was there. I'm worried about him. So, backstage, Ilya Dragunov is giving an interview. He's interrupted by Stax and Luca Crucifino. And I love that Ilya is just like, oh, okay, I'm more interested in watching this match now. It's like, I don't care who I'm going to fight, but now you color me intrigued. And I'm like, that's exactly why I love you, Ilya. You're just going to fight everyone and anybody. It doesn't matter who. I get the feeling, though, based on what happens in the main event, I'll give my predictions and see if that happens later. So I'll wait until that. Then we get our next third advertised match that we were told we were getting on the bumpers last weekend on social media for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Lyra Valkyria and Tatum Paxley. We call her Tatum Tot around these pots. So, don't look at me like that, Andrew. This is a me and Will thing, and you have to live with it. But
I'm the new guy here.
Yeah. Those two are taking on the Kabuki Warriors, which is being represented by Asuka and Kairi Sane. First and foremost, I'm so happy to see Kairi come back to NXT. I just love Kyrie coming back to WWE. We got to see her a little bit to be, the women's champion for New Japan for a little bit, which was great. Her match against Mercedes was a lot of fun. And I'm just happy that Asuka and Kyrie are back together. And you pair up with Io, it's like the girls are back together from Japan here in WWE. Is so good. I just want to say I am always a big fan of anytime Asuka and Kyrie come out with their ring gear. I'm like, it is so Japanese in the best way possible. It is so good. And you know what? I was actually impressed with this match. This actually got more time than I thought. I was like, the main roster takes some notes. This is how you let your women's tag team division flourish. By actually giving them time and not keeping them under 8 minutes.
Yeah, like both, Kyrie and Asuka are they're such good wrestlers and they're such a good tag team together. Like, watching them perform together, because obviously they're great individually. Like, Asuka's phenomenal. She's one of my top favorite, and one of my biggest choices for just underutilized, undervalued, which is saying something because she's had a lot of really good moments in her career. But watching the two of them together, I put them up there as a tag team up with just tag teams from all different companies, men's, women's tag teams from all the big companies. They're just really clean together, which is really nice to see, especially because WWE has had a history of just throwing singles women competitors together to make tag teams because they can't invest in any tag team wrestling really. I thought it was a really great, a really excellent match for showcasing the Kabuki Warriors as a tag team, but also Tatum and Lyra I thought looked really good as singles competitors who hadn't really tagged together much. Against established, what's supposed to be the top tag team in the women's division. The only issue I had with this match was in the probably the first third of it, we got a cut to backstage of seeing some action happening back there, and I was like, that did not need to be in here. That this match was just killing it. We didn't need that interruption.
NXT is very. Thankfully, NXT doesn't do it as often as main roster does, but man, I was just like, this was the wrong match to do this to, because I wanted to see all the action because it was great. Ultimately, in the end, after some miscommunication a tiny bit, the Kabuki Warriors hit their finishing move on Tatum, and the Kabuki Warriors retained the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. The match itself was very fun. I want to see more women's tag team matches like this. Main roster, take some notes. You need to give them time. And don't let the Dwayne The Rock Johnson take 40 minutes of your promo. I'm so bitter from SmackDown. I was just because Tiffany and Naomi's match got cut by 5-6 minutes because that segment went over. Naomi didn't even get an entrance. I'm like, I am bitter because we got Trinity and TNA for the last 6-7 months, and this is what's happening to our girl over now that she came back to WWE. I'm not bitter. Yes, I am.
Yeah.
But some more exciting stuff happened after the match, because who should come out but my other favorite in NXT right now, because she's so damn good. Roxanne Perez completes her full heel turn because she lays out Lyra and she basically breaks her arm in a sense.
Yeah.
It looks so nasty the way that they sold that, and it ricocheted off of, the turnbuckle, and just Roxanne smiling the whole way. I was just like, okay, now I can get behind a heel Roxanne, because I'm like, she's not really getting over as a heel, but this is how you do it. You attack the champion.
Yep.
I'm like, well, we just found Lyra's opponent for Stand and Deliver.
Yeah, I thought this was such a good turn for her. It fits to the build that they've been doing, and it's funny because she did it in such a way that obviously she's the heel, but a lot of her complaints, you're like, yeah, I can see that. You've gone in and either not had the opportunity to get your rematch, or when you did, there were shenanigans and other stipulations put in that you didn't lose that again. You didn't lose your title shot, just like you didn't lose your title. Like, so, I think there's that. It's the story of a good villain where you can like sympathize with some of their arguments. And yeah, that arm snap was very reminiscent of when Penta would do his in Lucha Underground, and it was sold as like legitimately like supposed to break their arm, and so they'd be out or in a sling for a while. Like, so, which will probably be what they'll do to keep Lyra not active, like in ring action, for the next few weeks, like leading up to Stand and Deliver, or I guess it's almost a month, right?
Yeah, because we have full. You know what? Hold up, I have a calendar in front of me.
Because it's April. It's the weekend of April 6th, right?
Yeah, so it's the same weekend as WrestleMania weekend. Lord have mercy. I'm just like.
So yeah, it's about a month exactly away.
Yeah, about a month. We have 4 weeks to build to this, so that is the perfect way. I'm putting it out there right now. I'm pretty sure we're getting Lyra and Roxanne at Stand and Deliver. That match is going to be banging. And I'm going to pin this episode as my prediction, even before the official predictions in 4 weeks. I love Lyra, I really do. And Will, if you're ever listening to this, I want to apologize for about to say. I think Lyra's losing that title to Roxanne at Stand and Deliver because we have been building Roxanne to be this heel. And if she doesn't win the title at Stand and Deliver, I'm just going to be like, then what was this whole build for? Why did we do this? But I'm calling it now. Roxanne's win that title at Stand and Deliver.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It makes the most sense. And it gives, just a little bit of new twist to what's going on there. And there's a part of me that wonders if this is the setup for like Lyra to move to another show too.
Maybe. But I'm going to quote our other host, Professor Crosswaith here. It's like, if it makes sense, they won't do it. I love the professor. It's so great. So, which then we kind of go seeing Lyra being pulled into the ambulance and then gets taken to the hospital. So I'm pretty sure we're not going to be seeing her for a little bit, which is a nice way to build this up. So then, as soon as this segment and this match was over, the last fourth of the show was lots of backstage talking heads. Holy crap, Andrew. There was a lot of promos for no reason. So I'm just going to go through these as quickly as possible, and we can just give quick commentary. Oh, but before that, we had a really quick match. Fallon Henley versus Blair Davenport. This match only went about 6-7 minutes, and we got the return of Sol Ruca. I'm super happy about. Shout out to Sol Ruca's parents. Last year at WrestleMania, before Stand and Deliver started, me, our other co-host Minnie, and a friend of ours got a chance to talk to Sol's parents. They're really sweet individuals. They're lovely. And come to find out that they were very good in keeping the secret the fact that Sol Ruca was going to be in the Cinnamon Toast Crunch outfit during Rey Mysterio's match at WrestleMania. She was the Cinnamon Toast Crunch person mascot during that match. It was hilarious. Fantastic. But Sol is back and she kind of distracts. She kind of helps Fallon win here. Mm-hmm. So it seems we're going to be setting up Blair and Sol later in the next couple of weeks because commentary reminded us that Blair attacked Sol Ruca, aka Sol got injured, and so we needed a storyline. It was the same thing with Nikita Lyons. I'm just ready for Wendy Chu to come back from injury too, and just everyone's gonna jump Blair. It's gonna be hilarious. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, I thought this was a really good, solid match. Like the two of them were tough on each other out there, and it was fun, especially not having as much history with both of those performers, and especially not being familiar with Sol Ruca because she's been out since before I got back into NXT. It was cool what we got, but it gave me a couple of questions, and one of those was, is this going to build towards something? Because it seemed like that would be what they would be setting up with that. And then the other thing is why don't we get more matches like this during every other weekly show of NXT? Because it felt like a regular NXT episode style match which I don't mean that in a bad way, but this was supposed to be a
This
PLE
was a television special.
Yeah. But it also means that they could do matches like this during the week when it's not a special and still have good matches, because it was still a really good match, especially not having that history of them. I was impressed with both of them. Well, all three of them.
Yeah. I'm hoping it builds to something, because I would like to see all three of these women have something to do at Stand and Deliver, which is fantastic. So now we get into these whole bunch of segments and things like that. First, we visit Chase U, who JC is, kind of talking down to Andre Chase and Duke Hudson for losing the tag team championships. In comes our human embodiment of a corgi, Thea Hale, as she comes in and she's like, so apparently next week I have a tag team match. I may or may not have punched Izzy Dane and Kiana James in the face. And JC's like, who's your tag partner? Thea's like, you. And JC's like, no, I'm busy. Bye. I was like, okay. Well, that's a thing.
This felt like a really awkward Saturday Night Live sketch.
Oh my gosh. I can't unsee it now. You're so right.
I don't know.
Out of place. This was so out of place. I was like, we could have did this as a digital exclusive, or honestly, if you wanted to do this like a 5 minutes after the championship match they had in earlier half of the show, then I'll be like, okay, that totally makes sense. I'm kind of upset we didn't see Thea Hale on screen beat up Izzy Dane.
Yeah.
Kiana James. I was like, so you punched some girls, but we didn't get to see it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the thing that's happening next week. Then we get probably one of my other favorite segments. Ava is in the office with Gigi Doll. Listen, I love Gigi so much. She's one of my favorites. I'm hoping we do something more with her. But Gigi's like, Ava, Ariana Grace cost me my match last week, and I kind of want to punch her in the face. So let me get a match. And Ava's like, listen, I've been trying, but Ariana has said no, and she's not going to agree to it. Thus, our Miss Universe NXT herself walks into the frame. Ariana Grace, who happens to be Santino's daughter, which I love so much because the comedic chops are there right there. And so Ariana's just like, I don't want to fight. That's so barbaric. And Gigi's like, girl, you're in NXT, especially in the women's division. That's all we do is fight. Which leads into Ariana Grace saying that she will have a match against Gigi, but on the stipulation that if she wins, Ariana gets to teach Gigi how to be a proper lady. I'm like, oh God, please let Gigi lose, because
she's gonna win.
Ariana's going to win.
She has to. They're setting up weeks of that shenanigans happening.
I'm kind of here for shenanigans. I'm not gonna lie.
No, it'll be entertaining. It'll be super entertaining. It's the Odd Couple effect. Yeah.
So then we go into the most dangerous spot in NXT, the parking lot. Listen, the parking lot is dangerous. People get jumped. There were a few times people got kidnapped in cars. Somebody got ran over at one point. And of course, the parking lot's also where people get thrown off buildings. A la Joe Gacy and Dijak a few weeks ago. That was nuts to watch that happen. But Shawn Spears is giving an interview backstage in the parking lot where he's smizing to the camera. I was just like, look into my soul. I'm like, I don't want to look, but I can't look away. But he's just like, Ridge Holland and I are going to have a match next week, and we'll see how much Ridge will embrace his inner darkness. I'm like, cool. I'm actually really excited to see that match. Then we go back inside the arena for probably another This was cool, but also at first I was like, where are we going with this? I'm kind of confused. And then William Regal showed up. I'm like, best segment ever, 10 out of 10, don't care, fight me. But we have no quarter catch crew, so Drew Gulak, Damon Kemp, Miles Bourne, and of course, my personal favorite, Charlie Dempsey. So they're talking about how they're going to bring, they have the Heritage Cup, they're going to fight everybody, they're going to go, for the tag team championships. I'm like, this might be interesting. And then William Regal comes out. William Regal is such a wonderful person, human being, but his legendary status in the world of wrestling knows no bounds. I I just love that he got to have a segment with his own son. That was a lot of fun to watch. And I love Charlie's like, I'm going to defend this thing better than you ever could. And just watching the audience's reaction in the background, they're like, ooh.
The chance of he's your father. That was so good.
See, these are the few moments I love when the NXT crowd like hijacks segments and things like that. I'm like, this is how we do it. This is great.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see Charlie Dempsey and see what his championship reign as NXT Heritage Cup champion is going to lead to, which then leads to,
especially with the fact that they bring up the catch clause. That's basically the new version of the Freebird rule. So any of the no quarter catch crew can defend the championship. Makes me also wonder, are they going if they're going to set them up to win the tag titles, would that clause also apply? Because they're going into a tournament, and then like they could mess with people, and it's like if that applies for them, then they could go into the first round of the tournament as two of them. Then the next round, potentially, they could go in as two different ones, or another one paired up with someone. Like, they could totally use this to just manipulate and mess with their opponents in two different divisions, which would be pretty cool.
Which would be fantastic. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because as soon as I heard that, I was like, we're having another tournament? I thought we were lining up the Good Brothers to go up against the Wolf Dog. Okay, fine, I guess. Whatever. I mean, the Good Brothers may still end up winning the tournament to move on to Stand and Deliver, but I'm just sitting here. I was just like, okay, so Axiom and Nathan Frazier, totally all right. So we got the no quarter catch crew. We have the Good Brothers lying around somewhere. And then if I remember correctly, because of what happened last week, LWO is just somewhere in the universe, apparently, too, here. I'm like, cool, we got 4 teams. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, oh God, if they put Chase U in this tournament, I actually might get mad. I was like, you just lost. You don't get to be in this tournament.
Well, they got OTM. The family could now go in because they brought in Crucifino.
Yeah, so And
so
I forgot. And then I forgot you guys, Idris and Nofe and Malik Blade too. So
yeah, so there's quite a few. They could have a 8 bracket tag tournament in there pretty easily.
Take my statement back. I'm actually excited about this now.
Yeah,
I just hope the right teams get put in the right places, because I want to see certain teams go far.
And who knows? Maybe because there are only 4 weeks, if they don't try to speed through this tournament. Because have they said if the winner for the tournament is going after the title at Stand and Deliver?
They didn't say that, but I'm going to work under that assumption.
Because it could be that's going to set up who challenges the winner of, the Wolf Dogs versus the Good Brothers. Which I wouldn't mind, because then at least it's long-term story building. And if you space it out, you have a chance to really showcase the tag teams instead of just trying to speed through it.
That's very, very fair. So then once we get done with this in-ring segment, we shoot backstage to one of my other favorite groups in NXT right now, Metaphor. They're so dumb. I love them so. Me and Will love Metaphor so much. Noam Dar is just at a loss of what to do with himself now that he lost the Heritage Cup. Lash Legend and Aura Mentor is like, girl, have you seen Jakara? She's been on the look for Noam, but he's apparently here. So Aura, I need you to go call her and tell her to come back. And then it was Lash Legend is so funny. I love her so much, and she's like, "Hey, Noam," and it's just like, it's like that one friend is like calls you up, and you just gotta sit there to try to make them feel better after girl, we told you not to go back to him, but you didn't listen to us. But I'm here to console you anyways because I'm your friend. And then they ended up cheering Noam Dar back. So I was just like, I wonder if we're gonna get a crazy Noam Dar who's gonna snap. He's just very vulnerable and fragile right now.
Well, and that's another pair that we could see show up in a tag team tournament too. Now that he's out of the Heritage Cup, theoretically, for a little bit, we could see them tag up to go after the tag team titles to maybe cheer up Noam.
I would love to see that. Okay, so me and Will have talked about this on multiple occasions, and me and Andrew are going to talk about this. We get this weird backstage segment where apparently Mr. Stone and Lexus King are going to fight next week, it sounds like. I'm just like... Okay, I understand that NXT, these are people who are trying to learn the trade, right? So we want to give a
Mhm.
little bit of grace. But gosh dang it, Von Wagner, you have been there long enough. You got to stop delivering these promos in this style. Oh my gosh, Andrew, this was bad. This
Yeah.
was bad.
I'm pretty sure I like blacked out during part of this promo. It was I just lost interest and was not paying attention at all to what was happening.
I mean, in a weird way, I'm happy because if it seems that we're getting Stone versus Lexis King next week, I'm actually intrigued by it. For those of you who don't know, Mr. Stone is formerly Robbie E of TNA fame. And if you go way back into the TNA history of the 2000s, like he was actually a champion, he was a tag team champion, like he actually can go, which I've been asking for the longest time. I just hate the fact that this is the storyline we're getting with these two. And once again, we're stuck in the Lexis King void. I'm just like, all right, fine, whatever. They all can't be winners, but yeah, Von Wagner's delivery is so bad. It was, I don't want to talk about it anymore. We're moving on. We get bumpers for next week, so we are getting a North American Championship match, Obafemi versus Brooke Jensen. And, we get told what else is coming. And then we get to our main event. This is a number 1 contenders match. The winner of this match will go on to face Ilya Dragunov for the NXT Championship at Stand to Deliver. So Tony D'Angelo versus Carmelo Hayes. I knew what we were going to get in the end. I knew who was going to end up winning in this when Tony inserted himself last week. I'm like, okay, so this is how we're going to get Melo to get out of this title picture so he and Trick can have a match. Cool. I like it. And honestly, of everyone in the men's division right now, Tony has been there from the very beginning of the 2.0 rebrand. And I think now is a good time to give him a title shot. And I'm going to put this out there. This might get me in trouble, but I actually think Tony's going to take that title off of Ilya, because Ilya has held that thing since winning it at No Mercy back in September. So it's been like a good 6-7 months at this point. And honestly, Tony as champion, I think it's his time to have a singles champion, given everything that he's done and for it. I thought this match was also a lot of fun. I love the spot where the goons caught Carmelo Hayes. I thought was a fun sight. I was like, this is how we use security. This is what I want to see. Now, I've seen some comments online that people didn't like that Tony tricked Melo by playing Trick's music the first time and distracting him enough to hit his finisher. But I have to say, I'm not upset about it. And honestly, given the fact that Tony is the personification of a mob boss, there's got to be a little bit of underhanded tactics here to win. Even though Tony's technically a face with the crowd right now, you got to be a little bit of dirty, which I'm okay with. But that oh my gosh, that finisher is brutal looking. And I'm like, that's a new finisher for Tony. That's not his normal finisher.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought the match was a super good match. This was probably one of my top 2 matches. It may be my match of the night, especially with just how things were set up. And I like the fact that he used that, Trick's entrance to distract Carmelo. And because he also, it's not like he did that and then like just attacked him from behind. He basically just used it to prevent him, to stop him from going and hitting hitting a move to put him away. And I like how it tied into what happened after the match. Because it was like, you thought, oh, he was just messing around, he was just playing games or whatever, but it didn't stop there. And also, the style of heel that Carmelo has been since his turn, like, it's almost like you're okay with seeing the good guy, if that's what you want to call Tony, do something kind of sneaky to the guy who's the worst bad guy, so I didn't mind it at all. I thought it was pretty clever. And it also got the audience to kind of get swerved too, because you were kind of expecting, you're like, where's he going to come from? Is he going to come from behind because security's there? Is he going to come out and fight through security or whatever? So it was fun to do that, and then like let Tony still get a relatively clean finish because he still hit a counter and then hit his finish. Which that like spinning fisherman brainbuster that he hit, that was super brutal. But yeah, this was a great match. Both these guys are definitely top tier in NXT right now.
Absolutely. And with Tony winning, the Air 4 is officially set for Stand and Deliver. It will be Tony D'Angelo versus Ilya Dragunov for the NXT Championship at Stand and Deliver. I'm super excited about that match. I think it's going to be fantastic. So, but after the match makes it even better too, because Tony gets on the mic. He says that he apologizes for being a little underhanded, but he is a good Don of NXT, so he's going to leave Carmelo a present. And we get Trick's music again, but this time we get a return from Trick Williams, who attacks Carmelo and is able to dispatch the Goon Squad. And I was like, there's our second match right here. This is our third match here. Trick versus Carmelo at Stand and Deliver is the match we've been building for the last year and a half of this build. I am so excited. Honestly, I think this is going to be a fantastic match between the two of them. And honestly, just of how big this is going to do for Trick. Trick has got to win this one. If Trick doesn't win this one, I'm going to be like, NXT, Shawn Michaels, don't make me come down to Florida. Like, I was like, what are we doing? But I'm super happy to see how much Trick has improved over the last year and a half. And I think this is going to be his big coming out moment to push him to that next level that we've been building him up towards. So Trick is standing tall at the end of this episode, and we have reached the end. So Andrew, we got to go through this like we always do with every review. We got to give this a final rating. So what do you give NXT Roadblock?
So before I give my actual rating, so I think it was a really good, fun show. Some of it felt like it could have been regular episodes of NXT. But I know we wouldn't have gotten a lot of the things that we did get if it wasn't a special episode, which is kind of a bummer. But like seeing them deliver with this, other than the Kabuki Warriors coming in and defending their titles, which honestly they should just bring them down to NXT to do that more often, to give them more time, and there's some really great women down there. There's no reason we can't get matches like this every week during NXT, especially if we can cut out some of those promos. But overall, I give a lot of kudos to the performers because they put in a lot of good work for this show. So I give this an 8.9. This was probably my favorite episode of NXT over the last few weeks. Some really great action. I ranked a lot of the matches really high. Because they were just really good matches. So yeah, this was a really good episode for me.
You know, I'm actually gonna agree with you. I'm gonna give it like an 8.5 out of 10 for me. I give it this rating for the same reason you do, given that it was a TV special. All the matches that we got, the 4 that were advertised, definitely delivered for me. They were a lot of fun. They were fantastic to watch. And what I'm hoping is that from these TV specials, I would like to see these quality types of matches be on the weekly shows, which, I mean, we were shown that we could probably do that on a weekly basis if we really wanted to. But I definitely agree. I feel that the last fourth of the show with all the promos and the backstage stuff before we got to our main event kind of just dragged out more than it should have. And I mean, I get we have to start setting up stuff for the weekly shows, and then we're going to start building towards Stand and Deliver here very soon. But yeah, that last fourth really dragged on once we got through the 3 matches that were advertised for the evening. But otherwise, this was a fantastic show. So Andrew, we have reached the end of this week's NXT review. We did our rating, so now we must be like Kenny Omega and bid adieu. But we will be back next week, and I promise you all 3 of us are going to be here. I'm going to manifest it. And then future Mikey, if it doesn't have, then it's your fault. Anyways, future Mikey, you got this. I believe in you. But me and Andrew are going to get on out of here because we have a busy weekend ahead of us and we got to do something for that in a little bit. But if you want to know what that's going to be in, tune into Friday morning to see what video we're about to record. It's gonna be fantastic, I promise. But we're going to get on out of here. So for myself and Andrew, Will, and the rest of the Biconics boys, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, stay Biconic, you guys, gals, non-binary pals, he, she, theys, and gays of the internet. We will see you next week for another NXT review. But until then, ta-ta for now.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's gonna happen next time? Well, you're gonna have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.